your collection, I see.
This is one that nobody else has.
What if I told you that Clint Eastwood once faced rejection not for his acting, but for something as peculiar as his Adam's apple? Yes, you heard that right. Before becoming a cinema legend, Eastwood's early career was filled with struggles, strange setbacks, and one life-altering secret that changed everything. At 94, the man who defined grit is finally opening up about the surprising truth behind his rise to fame. Let's uncover the whole story. Clint Eastwood was born on May 31, 1930, during the Great Depression, a time when millions of Americans were struggling just to survive. His birth at St. Francis Memorial Hospital in San Francisco was remarkable. He weighed a massive 11 pounds 6 ounces. The nurses nicknamed him Samson because of his size, hinting at the strength he would show throughout his life. While most families faced poverty and hardship, Clint's family lived in comfort in Piedmont, California. Thanks to his father's job as a manufacturing executive at Georgia Pacific, they had luxuries like a swimming pool and a country club membership, even as millions of others were living in tents, caves, or sewer pipes.
But after we were talking about the film, they just have a book out on the thing. And when I was talking about how this happened, I was asking questions much like you are now.
Clint's school years were rocky. At Piedmont Middle School, his grades were so bad that he had to repeat a year and attend summer school. High school wasn't much better. At Piedmont High, Clint became known for his troublemaking. In 1946, he was expelled after writing an obscene message on the school scoreboard and burning an effigy on the lawn. After that, he transferred to Oakland Technical High School, where academics took a back seat to other interests. He spent most of his time in the auto mechanics shop, which his classmates joked was his major. One friend even said Clint barely showed up to school, preferring to focus on other activities. Before becoming a Hollywood star, Clint worked a series of tough and surprising jobs. He fought forest fires, though details of that job are unclear. He operated heavy equipment at a pulp mill in Oregon, showing his willingness to take on dangerous work. He also became a certified lifeguard, delivered newspapers, worked as a grocery clerk, and even played ragtime piano at a bar in Oakland. These experiences helped shape the grit and resourcefulness that would later define his acting career. The most dramatic moment of Clint's early life happened in 1951 during his time in the military. He was flying back from Seattle in a Douglas AD Skyraider bomber when disaster struck. The plane's radio and oxygen system failed, and it ran out of fuel near Point Reyes, California. Clint and the pilot, Lieutenant Francis Coleman Anderson, crashed into the Pacific Ocean. Clint had to swim 2 miles through freezing waters, pulling a life raft to safety. Years later, he found out they had crashed in a white shark breeding ground. "I'm glad I didn't know that at the time," he said. "I'd have just died." This terrifying experience made local headlines and unexpectedly opened the door to Hollywood. The story caught the attention of Chuck Hill, who had connections at Universal Studios. This connection would eventually launch Clint's acting career. In 1954, Clint Eastwood's life took a sharp turn when he signed a contract with Universal Studios on May 1st. The deal, worth $100 a week, about $1,020 in today's money, was a big step for someone who had spent his time operating machinery at a pulp mill and playing piano at bars. The opportunity came after a chance meeting with film director Howard Hawks at a Malibu party.
But now they'll try to maybe modernize a little bit, maybe not have the white hat hero be so white hat. And it used to be in the old days the hero always wore a white hat.
Universal had high hopes of turning Eastwood into their next big star, but their system was tough and rigid, leaving little room for mistakes or individuality. Eastwood's first role under this contract was far from glamorous. He appeared in the 1955 horror film Revenge of the Creature, playing a lab technician named Jennings. His big moment involved a comedic scene where he complained about a cat eating his lab rat, only to discover the rat hiding in his pocket. The film didn't impress critics or audiences and is now known as one of Eastwood's lowest-rated films, with a mere 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was a far cry from the tough, stoic characters that would later define his career. While Universal saw potential in Eastwood, they also saw flaws. Acting coaches criticized his delivery, labeling his speech as a sibilant whisper, a soft hiss through his teeth. Ironically, this trait would later become one of his trademarks. Coaches like Jess Kimmel and Jack Coslin worked tirelessly with him, pushing him through voice lessons and other exercises. In a particularly humbling experience, the studio made him perform as a scarecrow in their annual Christmas musical for children. These efforts were meant to fix his perceived weaknesses, but they also highlighted how much work the studio thought he needed. By 1955, Universal decided that Eastwood wasn't worth the effort. On October 23rd, they ended his contract in one of the strangest firings in Hollywood history. Fellow actor Burt Reynolds, who was fired around the same time, recalled the bizarre reasons given for Eastwood's dismissal. Studio executives claimed his Adam's apple was too prominent, his speech was too slow, and he had a chipped tooth that he refused to fix. Reynolds joked to Eastwood, "You're really in trouble. I can learn to act, but you can't get rid of that Adam's apple." After losing his contract, Eastwood faced tough times. To make ends meet, he worked digging foundations for swimming pools in the San Fernando Valley. He lived in a modest apartment at Villa Sands off Ventura Boulevard, chosen partly because it had a pool where he could stay fit. Ironically, the same complex became a hotspot for swimsuit photo shoots, including a famous session with Anita Ekberg in a leopard print bikini, all while Eastwood was working nearby, digging pools for a living. In 1958, Clint Eastwood's life took a sudden turn that would change Hollywood forever. He wasn't looking for a role. In fact, he was close to giving up on acting. While visiting a friend at CBS, an executive spotted him drinking coffee in the cafeteria. Eastwood wasn't there to audition, but that chance meeting led to his casting as Rowdy Yates in Rawhide. When Rawhide began airing in 1959, Eastwood stepped into the role of Rowdy Yates. For 7 years, he worked an exhausting schedule, filming 6 days a week for up to 12 hours each day. The show became a massive success, producing 217 episodes and peaking at number 6 in TV ratings during 1960 and 1961. Rowdy Yates was written as a hot-headed young cowboy who needed to mature over time. He was already 28 when he began the role, but his youthful appearance helped him embody the part. As the show progressed, CBS executives made the bold decision to promote Eastwood's character to trail boss, replacing the original lead, Eric Fleming. This move highlighted Eastwood's rising popularity and cemented his place as the show's main star. Despite the show's success, Eastwood grew increasingly frustrated with playing Rowdy Yates. He saw the character as too immature and clumsy, a poor fit for where he wanted to go as an actor. By his early 30s, Eastwood still felt stuck playing what he called juvenile roles. He admitted that his youthful look held him back, and he believed he wouldn't make a real impact in Hollywood until he had aged into his 30s. To address his frustrations, Eastwood began pushing for changes to Rowdy's character. He even got involved in script writing, insisting that Rowdy be portrayed as less petty and more mature. These small changes helped him assert more control over his career, but he knew he needed a bigger move to escape the limitations of television. That opportunity came in 1964 during Rawhide's hiatus. Eastwood took a huge gamble by accepting a role in a low-budget film directed by an unknown Italian filmmaker, Sergio Leone. He traveled to Spain to shoot A Fistful of Dollars, earning just $15,000 for 11 weeks of work. As a bonus, he received a Mercedes-Benz, but the real prize was the chance to break out of his clean-cut cowboy image. Eastwood's Rawhide co-star Eric Fleming had turned down the role, leaving Eastwood free to take it. He saw it as his chance to redefine himself, telling Leone he wanted to play a hero with the edge of a villain. Eastwood's instincts were right. Rawhide was already beginning to decline, and this role transformed him from a TV cowboy into a global film icon. The film, while initially facing legal trouble for being an unauthorized remake of Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, became a massive success. By 1965, Eastwood's salary jumped to $50,000 for a few dollars more, and by 1966, he earned $250,000 for the good, the bad, and the ugly. His gamble had paid off. The character that Eastwood created in these films became iconic. Known as the Man with No Name, this role wasn't originally written as the mysterious figure we know today. Eastwood played a major role in shaping the character. He insisted on cutting down much of the dialogue, believing that less talking would make the character more intriguing. He focused on using attitude and movements to tell the story. Eastwood even designed the character's appearance, buying the famous poncho in Spain for $15 and wearing his own black jeans and boots. The character's signature squint, which became a defining feature, was actually a result of Eastwood's discomfort with the bright lights and constant cigar smoke on set. His creative clashes with director Sergio Leone helped refine the character into one of the most influential figures in cinema history. With the success of the Dollars trilogy, Eastwood made a smart business move in 1967. He used his earnings to establish Malpaso Productions, a company that gave him control over his films. The first movie produced by Malpaso, Hang 'em High, was a huge hit. Eastwood negotiated an unprecedented deal for himself: $400,000 plus 25% of the net box office earnings. The film broke records for United Artists, becoming their biggest opening weekend ever. Malpaso Productions would go on to produce nearly all of Eastwood's films, giving him creative freedom and a significant share of the profits. Eastwood's financial journey is just as impressive as his rise to fame. When he started in Hollywood in 1954, his first contract with Universal paid just $75 a week, the equivalent of about $750 today. But as his career grew, so did his paychecks. By 1978, he was earning $12 million for Every Which Way But Loose, a salary worth around $50 million today. Eastwood's business sense was sharp. He often chose percentage deals instead of flat fees, which meant he earned much more when his films were successful. Through Malpaso Productions, he not only maintained control over his projects, but also maximized his profits. Over time, Eastwood's net worth grew to an estimated $375 million, cementing him as not just a legendary actor and director, but also a savvy businessman. In 1971, Clint Eastwood surprised audiences by stepping behind the camera for the first time with his directorial debut, Play Misty for Me. Known until then for his tough guy roles, Eastwood ventured into psychological thriller territory, playing a jazz DJ terrorized by an obsessive fan. The film, shot in Monterey on a modest budget, was a bold move. To keep costs down, Eastwood waived his directorial fee and used footage from the 1970 Monterey Jazz Festival to add realism without spending extra. Critics were impressed, with Jay Cox from Time, Andrew Saris from The Village Voice, and Archer Winston from The New York Post praising his direction and acting. Jessica Walter's chilling performance earned her a Golden Globe nomination, proving that the risks Eastwood took with this film paid off. Later that same year, Eastwood solidified his status as a Hollywood icon with the release of Dirty Harry. The film became a cultural phenomenon, earning $36 million against a $4 million budget, and ranking as the fifth highest-grossing film of 1971. Interestingly, Frank Sinatra was Warner Brothers' first choice for the lead role, but Eastwood made it his own, creating one of the most memorable characters in cinema history. The film stirred controversy, with feminist groups protesting at the 44th Academy Awards, calling Dirty Harry misogynistic. Despite this, the film's influence was undeniable. The .44 Magnum revolver featured in the movie saw a spike in sales, and its gritty tone inspired popular TV series like Streets of San Francisco and Beretta. Eastwood's career reached new heights with two films that earned him double Academy Awards. In 1992, Unforgiven received 9 Oscar nominations, winning 4, including Best Director and Best Picture. At 62, Eastwood had firmly established himself as one of Hollywood's finest directors.
It is my honor to present the Oscar for Achievement in Directing. Every one of them did an extraordinary job of bringing their vision to the screen. The nominees are...
He repeated this success in 2004 with $1 Million Baby, which also won Best Director and Best Picture. Throughout his career, he directed 5 actors to Oscar-winning performances, including Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, and Hilary Swank. His achievements were recognized internationally, too. In 1994, France honored him as Commandeur of the Ordre des Arts et des Lettres, and in 2007, he received their highest award, the Légion d'honneur. At 94, Clint Eastwood remains a powerhouse in the film industry. He recently completed what may be his final project, Juror Number 2, starring Nicholas Hoult and Toni Collette. Though he now makes rare public appearances, Eastwood is far from retired. In mid-April, he was seen with Jane Goodall at an event in Carmel, where he lives in a sprawling 15,940 square foot estate he built at age 80 for $20 million. With a net worth of $375 million, Eastwood's decades-long career as an actor, director, and producer has cemented his legacy. Even in his 90s, he continues to inspire, proving that his passion for storytelling remains as strong as ever. Clint Eastwood's romantic life is as complex and layered as any Hollywood drama. His first marriage to Margaret Maggie Johnson in December 1953 set the tone for a lifetime of overlapping relationships and unexpected revelations. Even before they tied the knot, Eastwood had fathered a child, Laurie, with a woman he met in a theater group. Born in 1954, Laurie was given up for adoption, and Eastwood didn't learn about her until decades later. While married to Johnson, Eastwood maintained a long-term affair with stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis. Their relationship lasted 14 years and resulted in the birth of a daughter, Kimber, in 1964. Despite this, Eastwood and Johnson remained married in what was described as an open arrangement, raising 2 children together. Kyle, born in 1968, and Allison, born in 1972. Eastwood's family is sprawling and spans generations, with 8 children from 6 different women. The gap between his oldest child, Laurie, and his youngest, Morgan, is an incredible 43 years. Laurie discovered her connection to Eastwood through genealogical research in the 1990s, long after she was adopted. Despite the shock, she and Eastwood formed a close bond. Laurie once shared how meeting him was an instant connection, describing their relationship as one filled with unconditional love. Meanwhile, Eastwood's youngest daughter, Morgan, born in 1996, recently made him a grandfather again in 2024 with the birth of her daughter, Cleo. One of the most dramatic chapters in Eastwood's life revolved around actress Sandra Locke. From 1975 to 1989, Eastwood and Locke lived together in what seemed like a committed relationship. However, during this time, Eastwood secretly fathered 2 children with Jocelyn Reeves, a flight attendant. Their children, Scott, born in 1986, and Catherine, born in 1988, remained unknown to Locke during their relationship. When their time together ended, it was anything but quiet, with Locke filing highly publicized lawsuits for palimony and fraud. Eastwood married for a second time in 1996 to Dina Ruiz, a news anchor. Their marriage lasted until 2014, marking a rare period of stability in his romantic life. After their divorce, he entered into a relationship with Christina Sandera, a restaurant hostess who remained by his side until her sudden passing in July 2024 from cardiac arrhythmia. Despite the many relationships and public interest in his personal life, Eastwood always maintained a philosophy of privacy. Those close to him, from his spokespeople to managers, rarely commented on his affairs, often denying knowledge of his private life.